Simpson, Germie Bernard, and the Alabama Crimson Tide head to Jordan-Hare to take on Cam Coleman, Xavier Atkins, and the Auburn Tigers in the Iron Bowl. One of the best rivalries in all of sports, and boy, are we going to have a great game. Look, this game immediately makes you think back to the Iron Bowl 2 years ago. Yes, that Iron Bowl where Jalen Milroe connects on the 4th and 31 to Isaiah Bond for the touchdown in the back of the left part of the end zone for the touchdown. Look, Alabama's season would have been over if they lose that game. Instead, they go to the SEC title game, much like this year. If they can win this game, they'll be in the SEC title game. If they lose, their season is over. Auburn, that season, well, they ran the heck out of the football. This year, well, they've been able to run the football pretty well. The issue for them, though, has been they can't win the tight games. Alabama probably feels like they don't want to be in a tight one-score game. I don't know if the Alabama fans could take the pain to their heart if this were a tight game. I know that cardiac Alabama squad during that season really what was unbelievably tough to watch at times, with how it just makes it hard to watch. And then the SEC title, they play a good game against Georgia. Brock Bowers was banged up in that one. They get the win, and then it goes to overtime in the Rose Bowl against Michigan. And frankly, they should have beat them in regulation, a fourth down conversion. That was a Bama team that was on the brink, and then they very well could have found themselves in the national title game and probably would have beaten that Washington team. I think they were just a little bit more physical. But Alabama in that game 2 years ago, why I really feel a lot of there's comparisons to that one is, first of all, it's on the road for the Tide. And that Auburn team throwing the football, my goodness, ugly. Peyton Thorne, 5 completions. He was 5 of 16 in that game, 91 yards and a touchdown, but they ran it for 244 and had close to 6 yards a carry. Unfortunately for Auburn, they are not going to have Ashton Daniels. Obviously, they elected to keep that red shirt for him. He played a heck of a game against Vanderbilt a couple of weeks ago, and Cam Coleman re-injured that ankle. He got healthy, though, during the bye week. So they are going to have one of the absolute best wide receivers in college football, Cam Coleman. Frankly, I have thought and had the opinion that Cam Coleman has been arguably the best wide receiver in the SEC this season. Hasn't had insanely prolific numbers, going into this year. There was thoughts that he might go out and put up 1,000 yards and score 10 touchdowns. He's at a pace right now where it looks like he's going to be in the consideration for the Blitnikoff Award next year. Same exact story for a guy like Ryan Williams. But again, this Alabama receiving corps, just as talented. There's no way you can go wrong if you're going to have a Germie Bernard, a Ryan Williams, a Cam Coleman. Let's talk about a little bit about Eric Singleton. We'll get back to Cam Coleman in a second. But in this game, Cam Coleman will have opportunities for one-on-ones because of the amount of attention that Singleton has out of the slot. In that game against Vandy, he had 11 catches for 102 yards. They combined for 21 catches of the 31 grabs they had as a team, and they combined for 245 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I'm really going to believe this is going to be a heavy dose of Coleman and Eric Singleton in this game. This Alabama secondary, anchored by Sabb, by Jackson. In the middle, there's Jefferson and Lawson. This defense has come along, and the game against Oklahoma is what we'll talk about here because that's the most recent competitive game for Vanderbilt beating Auburn in overtime and Oklahoma beating Alabama down to the wire. Alabama could win that game if they pick up that 4th and 6 there at the end of it. This defense has been playing their best football of the entire season. Oklahoma may have scored 23, but you could probably put, 6 points of that truly on their defense. John Mateer threw for 138 yards. Oklahoma ran it for 2.5 yards a carry. You're talking about a team that struggled on the offensive side of the ball, and then your quarterback had a couple of critical turnovers. The pick 6, setting up Oklahoma on the strip sack fumble deep in your territory. This is an Alabama team that with Simpson, you're starting to feel a bit more of the roller coaster than it had been when he went on that tear and the way he played on that stretch after Florida State, and then great way to play against Georgia, and then there's the Vandy win, and there's the Missouri win, and just rolling through teams. Against LSU, though, it was a bit of a struggle, and that's a game at home. Against Oklahoma, that's a game at home and not playing his best football. Is there a chance for Ty Simpson to get back on track, for him to be able to establish his accuracy over the middle of the field? This is a part of the field where he is one of the most dangerous quarterbacks in the country. That's why he was in consideration for the Heisman Trophy before his performances against LSU and Oklahoma, because over the middle, this arm talent, it pops. His ability to navigate, move around in the pocket, very good. He's so underrated with his legs. And I thought that Josh Cuevas was able to have a really big day against Oklahoma. No doubt the touchdown and 80 yards being the main target in that game for Ty Simpson. So there's no doubt this Alabama team is flush with a ton of talent on the offensive side of the ball. They cannot be putting their defense in those spots. This is the type of game where you gotta at some point find a way to freaking run the football, and I just don't know how effective it will be against Auburn. I really do believe that this will be a tight football game. This Auburn team has played tight games the entire season, and there's probably a narrative out here that Alabama is going to crush this team here on the road. Where does the evidence point towards that? This Auburn team took Georgia, and they almost killed them, put them in the ground in the first half. Should have been up by 17 points. Oklahoma pretty much had, 14 points stolen from them in that game or given to Oklahoma when it shouldn't have been. The Aggies game so tight. Their defense playing well. Missouri tight game down to the finish. This has been an Auburn team that is a couple of plays away from legitimately having been just outside of the SEC title picture. Again, there's a ton of one-score losses on here. I know they're only a few weeks out from a loss to Kentucky, only putting up 3 points. I'm not saying that this is a great offense. I'm not at all saying that. The only time they looked like a great offense was against Vandy. Ashton Daniels running for 2 touchdowns and 90 yards and throwing 2 touchdowns, not turning it over. But with Jackson Arnold at quarterback, you're riding that wave, man. You're riding that wave of inconsistency. Again, this offensive line has been putrid the whole year. 39 sacks that they've given up, or whatever the number is, right around 40. It's a game where you alleviate the stress on your quarterback. Knight, Arnold, obviously, could see both of these guys in this game. But you got to be able to help your quarterback out. Jeremiah Cobb on the ground. This guy's ran the football for 6 yards a carry on the season. Getting him the ball. But I just got to say, it's your one-on-ones. You got one-on-one to Cam Coleman. Give the alien a chance. Sometimes there are creatures that come down to earth from outer space. And you just have to say, all right, let's throw it to the guy that's bigger, probably faster and stronger than the other guy he's playing and has better ball skills. Let's just throw it to that guy. Take your opportunity. Alabama, you cannot play man-to-man coverage on the outside on 3rd and long because Cam Coleman will go up. First of all, he'll be targeted. They're going to go at him. This man gets his targets. They say, Cam Coleman, go make a play. And more often than not, he is able to make a play. They have to be able to double him and make them go to Eric Singleton. That's what was so great about Auburn, and why you had a lot of confidence about this program going into the 2025 season, was they got the number 1 transfer portal wide receiver, Eric Singleton. It wasn't Casey Concepcion. It wasn't Mario Craver. It was Eric Singleton coming over from Georgia Tech, a guy that had a big day against Georgia in that final game of the regular season when they almost beat Georgia. That game went to 8 overtimes, maybe 50 overtimes. I think they're still playing. But Eric Singleton out of the slot. So Alabama, that's the guy that if you're going to choose for there to be one-on-ones or to defend him, or if you're able to find a way to rotate the coverage and force the football to go to someone else, ideally that's the way it goes. You can't really double team 2 guys unless you're only rushing 3. Not saying that Auburn doesn't have the tools, but Kaydyn Proctor, again, we're talking about a very talented left tackle. He's had his moments where he struggled. Again, remember, Oklahoma did not have R. Mason Thomas on the field and still managed 4 sacks, 5 tackles for loss. That was a very poor day from that Alabama offensive line. They were getting pressure a lot more than that. Felt like they had 7 sacks, maybe 8 sacks in that game. They were getting to Simpson. He had a couple of nice plays, just getting rid of the football. But also, you could tell that the pressure was really starting to affect Simpson. He hasn't really experienced that since the Missouri game earlier in the season, where they were getting pressure on him. It's just Missouri. They didn't have enough of a passing attack. Ahmad Hardy running the football pretty well. So Alabama, there's certainly a lot here when you're chewing this and you keep chewing it. That's like it's becoming tough to fully swallow the way that they pull away from Auburn in this game. And a lot of that has to do with how one-dimensional that they have to be. Alabama's an elite passing team. They are spectacular at lining up in shotgun, and they have a quarterback that can read the field. He's got great arm talent. When he's accurate, he's as good as anybody. I would argue he's the best in the country when he's on time and accurate with the ball. Even better than Santa Mendoza. The ball just comes out of his hand to a little bit of a different level of velocity. And that timing, my goodness, the way he just puts it right on his receivers. But when we talk about the one-dimensional nature, this game against Auburn, it feels like it could be somewhat similar to the way it was, not quite against Oklahoma the way they struggled, but sort of against Missouri, where this is a very talented defense for the Tigers. Alabama has not run the football well the entire season. Could it be Ty Simpson's legs at times? I've been waiting for that a little bit more this year for Simpson to actually really take advantage. He's only got 63 carries on the year. At some point, I want this man to go pick up a couple more first downs, to go after and go get those yards. There's a big 3rd and 6. Go pick it up with your legs and be decisive and go attack and go pick up that first down. That's something that I really would love to see. But Jam Miller, all of this conversing about Parker Brailsford center and Proctor at left tackle and Jam Miller back healthy, and this run game's going to take off. Jam Miller's only run the football for 3.5 yards a carry on the season, and he's by far been your best back overall this year. There's been all of this supplanted rush yards through the sweeps to Germie Bernard getting the football, or it's a swing pass, or it's going to be short underneath passes that are in elements of the run game, getting the football out of Simpson's hands and trying to push the defense back a little bit so that they can open up the middle of the field for passing lanes just a little bit easier so that the linebackers back off and you can open up the run game just a little bit more. I don't see it against Auburn. They've got the talent. And there's a certain guy that I'm going to question his manhood right now. Keldric Faulk, the entire year, I've heard about him being a top 10, top 15 prospect in this draft. Look, he's played decent football. It's been awful. We're looking for a play. There's going to be a moment that he's going to have to make a play. 3rd and 6. Alabama. Ball's at the 12-yard line. Driving for a touchdown. He comes up with a sack. Forces 3 points. Or the ball's 1st and 10 to the 25. Strip sack fumble. Gives Auburn the football back. Keldric Faulk needs a play in this game. Atkins has really been the best player on this defense overall on the season. He's been spectacular. We're talking about a guy that at the linebacking position has transferred in from LSU and fully delivered. You just think about what this kid could be for this Auburn team next year. Atkins, I mean, man, you talk about a linebacker that can get after the quarterback, rangy, and a bit of bend, put on a little bit of size, right? Add, 10, 15 pounds, and you're really working with something with Xavier Atkins. This is an exciting football player, and he might just give Ty Simpson a hard time. Overall for this one, it's hard to take an Auburn team that has struggled so often in these one-score games and hasn't been able to close. They have not been able to finish. It felt like they had it. It really did against Auburn, like they were going to be able to pull that one out. And then they just couldn't. And the only win they've had in the last 2 months was against Arkansas on the road in Talon Green. And I just believe that Alabama wins this game. I've got more confidence in the best part of their team, which is that downfield passing attack, that I got a lot of faith in Ryan Grubb, that he can maintain enough balance to open up the passing game for Ty Simpson. Bernard Williams, we can't be dropping the football. Ryan Williams, you got to catch the football. Cannot have those types of mistakes come up at any moments of a game like this. This is too important. There is way too much at stake. These guys want to be playing in the college football playoff. It's amazing that we go from what was just a couple weeks ago, Alabama is a national title contender. They're for sure going to be in the SEC title game, and then a loss to Oklahoma, which was a shocker to everybody. Probably even a lot of moms of Oklahoma players. Like, we were able to beat that team in Tuscaloosa on the road. My gosh, okay. And now Oklahoma is in a great spot. So you're really looking at a game, when it's a rivalry game, you take the records away. It doesn't matter. Again, that's why I keep looking at the 2023 game, and I bring it up and I mention it. There's, of course, other iconic matchups. 2021, the Alabama Crimson Tide, 10-1, 6-1 the SEC, and it is a darn battle. No points. Middle of that fourth quarter, they get that field goal, get the ball back with a minute 38, and then you go the length of the field. Bryce Young goes 97 yards in a minute 10 to tie the football game up, and then it goes to 4 overtimes, and they pull out the win. You talk about an instant classic. So that's what I'm to say here. Every other year, this game is a classic. And when does it happen? It's at Auburn. The game that's a classic is at Auburn. You'll look back to 2013 and the kick six. Where was that game? Where was that game? It was at Auburn. So I'm not saying anything here that a rocket scientist is coming up, that when it's at Tuscaloosa, it's not at all as competitive or as close. But when this game is in the Auburn Tigers Stadium, when it's at Jordan-Hare, they definitely have a different type of intensity, a level. And you've looked at their opponents and who they've played. Against Georgia at home, that game was a lot closer than them losing by 10 points, no doubt about it. Against Missouri, tight game. They've even been a good team on the road. If this one were at Alabama, I'd be a lot more confident. I do believe that Alabama wins this game, but I can't help but say that I believe this is going to be a one-score football game. I think Alabama will win this game 26-20. Now, here's why. Cam Coleman's going to make some plays. We can write it in right now. Coleman, 11 catches, 123 yards and a touchdown. I'm just going to put in that stat line. So I'm not going to be surprised when he just makes a crazy catch and he, seemingly is just a human highlight reel. I'm marking that in. I'm marking in a defense that gets after the quarterback in Simpson. But where this game, I believe, can stretch out has been the quarterback position struggles from Auburn. If the quarterback turns the football over for Auburn, you can't be turning the football over, especially in these types of games at home. If there are turnovers, that's where Alabama really can actually turn this game, and they can go from potentially being down 3 in the second half to winning this game by maybe 11 points or winning it going away because of a takeaway here or there. Remember, Alabama, this defense, like I talked about earlier, they're playing a lot stronger now in defending the run, getting after the quarterback a bit more, and putting pressure on the quarterback. And you look at LT Overton in the play like he had against Georgia on fourth down, either late third quarter, I think it was early fourth quarter. Play like that is probably the play of the Alabama season right now. It's why they're in a position to win and go to the SEC title game, win and go to the college football playoff because of plays exactly like that. I've got faith in that Alabama defense. I didn't think I'd be saying that after watching that game week 1 against Castellanos, but I have faith in that Alabama defense a whole lot more than I do in the quarterback position of Auburn. Look, this game on the ground for Auburn goes one or two ways. They can have a really good day on the ground, or a really poor day. There's really no balance there in what you think you're going to get. When they're able to really throw the football well, it opens it up. 563 yards of total offense against Vanderbilt. That's it's an amazing number. Vanderbilt hasn't been a great defense, but 563 yards of total offense against an SEC team that before that game was they're 7-2 and right in the conversation of the playoff, and they're being taken to the brink by Auburn. This has been the narrative on them the entire season. So do they have success on the ground? Do they don't? I'm going to be wagering on the fact they struggle a little bit to run the football. I know in that game back in 2021 that Auburn team could not run the ball to save their darn life. Tank Bigsby, 29 carries for 63. A lot of the sack yardage, I get it. Finley was sacked like, my goodness, I don't know how many times, but he lost like 42 yards on the day on the ground. You take that away, it was really like a 40-yard, maybe a 50, 60-yard day for Auburn on the ground. Back in 2023, Auburn, they ran the heck out of the football, as we talked about a little bit earlier, as did Alabama. Back in 2024, a season ago, Alabama stuck at it on the ground. So you really just question Ryan Grubb. Does he have faith enough in his offensive line in this rushing attack to keep the ball on the ground, to actually run the football consistently and to go after that? Or is it just like, all right, abandon this. We can't do it. It's 2nd and 8. It's a pass. Every time there's a 2nd and 7, 2nd and 8, 2nd and 9, it's a pass. That's really the down where you find out what an offensive coordinator believes in his offense. If you're in a 2nd and long, that's, not 2nd and 13 or it's an obvious passing down, but it's 2nd and 8. Do you run the football and think we could pick this up, get it to 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2? You got faith in our ground game? Or immediately, do you go to that passing attack? Do you immediately say, hey, no, we're not doing that. We're going to throw the football? That's specifically my question. I watch Alabama, 2nd and long, they're throwing it. There's not faith that they're going to pick it up on the ground. That's just not who they've been throughout the entire season. You look back at that game against the Tennessee Volunteers, and that was a better day on the ground, and Ty Simpson, very efficient overall. And they seemingly had everything clicking on all cylinders. And this defense, maybe they struggled a little bit, but that's something, the type of game I feel like this one could be. There's a swing here, a turnover in a key spot, maybe in the red zone. Auburn did that against Georgia, right? You think back, game against Oklahoma, they should have had a touchdown that gets wiped off the board. And that's something I feel like this could be a game that could really go Auburn's way, but a takeaway winds up changing it and gives the Tide a 26-20 win on the road. Let me know down below in the comments who you think wins this game. Does Kalen DeBoer get the dub, send his team to the SEC title, or is Durkin able to pull off what would be one of the upsets of the entire season and give the Tigers a win against Alabama and end their season? I mean, my goodness, after that 2021 year, after the 2023 season, coming so close in both of those games, Bryce Young has to go 97 yards. They had him 4th and 31. I don't know which one was even tougher. Bryce Young, 3 points the whole game. They got to go 97 yards in just a minute 10. Or 4th and 31, probably a little bit tougher, but like if I give you either of those for Auburn, you would take them 100 out of 100 times. So that's what's at stake here. Appreciate you so much for watching this Blitz with Blender video. I appreciate you so much. If you have not already, please subscribe for more content. I'm Josh Blender. I make NFL college videos every week. So excited. We've got playoff implications for the Iron Bowl. That's exactly the way it belongs, the way that it should be every single season. What a massive game. All of these huge games with playoff implications in college and the NFL. Soon we'll have college football playoff games and the conference championship games to be talking about. So stay tuned for all of that. Make sure you're getting down in the comments, engaging. I'll try and get down there to respond to everybody. I appreciate you all so much. Enjoy your Thanksgiving and your Thanksgiving weekend, and I will see you next time.
Best player in college football.
That Georgia and Ohio State game, New Year's Eve, is going to be a classic.
Josh Blunder, hi everybody, I'm Josh Blunder.
To the 40, 35, 30, Espinosa to the 20.